Thank you for your talk. And my question is, you mentioned earlier about how we actually had to start talking about race openly and freely. And I feel like so much of our racial discussion right now, is centered around, for want of a better term, on the white side of things, being fed up with up with the concept of white guilt. White guilt. Because the civil rights movement happened and then suddenly people feel like, we moved on and we should stop talking about this. I'm fed up with having to be constantly conscious about it at all possible times, at least in our minds. And so I think my question is how do we best to change the conversation so people don't view it as through that lens of being fed up with white guilt, so that we can actually start talking about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And, I think our politics today are reflective of the fact that nobody wants to talk about race. Race is the last thing Barack Obama wants to talk about, because it is clear that white folks don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. In fact, back when I was at the ACLU, there was an initiative that had been placed on the statewide ballot that would have banned the collection of all race data. It was, launched by Ward Connerly, and there was an effort to kind of basically wipe race and racial categories off the books for all government agencies, so you wouldn't be able to even know how many black folks were in prison or how many black folks graduated from college or high school. You wouldn't even be able to know anything about race. And we did polling, to find out kind of what messages would work, since there was such a short period of time to defeat this initiative. And the polling data came back saying white people do not want to hear a word about discrimination. That if you say the word discrimination, say anything about racial injustice, turns white people out because they don't want to hear about it. And so, the campaign that was eventually adopted said not a single word about discrimination, and in the advertisements featured only white people, and their main ads were white doctors, and it said, if you vote for this proposition, it'll hurt your odds of good health care, because, the theory being that if you don't have racial data, you can't track the spread of disease or something. So they did it, and they defeated the initiative. And so civil rights advocates say, yeah, it worked. It worked. We defeated this, stopped this horrible initiative, and we did it without saying a word about discrimination or bias or any of the reasons we actually need this data in the first place. Now, that might have been the right strategy because there was a short period of time and it would have been disastrous if the initiative passed. There was debate about whether that was the right strategy or not. But what's clear, though, is that not only do white people don't want to talk about it, but they have a knee-jerk hostile reaction when it's brought up. But this isn't, new. So that was true during Jim Crow. That was during Jim Crow. That was true during slavery. It's not like white people have ever wanted, really, to talk about it as a group. And so I think that rather than figuring out how to make kind of white folks comfortable with talking about it, I think more of the focus should be on kind of how can we organize in a way that requires them to deal with issues that they'd rather run from. And I think that, that doesn't mean being confrontational or in a hostile manner, but it does mean forcing issues that people may be uncomfortable with and, forcing conversations through our advocacy that people might prefer not to have. So, thank you.